What if I told you that your anxiety isn't actually anxiety? It's another emotion altogether that nobody ever told you about. How might that change your life? You may be surprised to find that that feeling that you call anxiety may be mislabeled and may actually be warning you and telling you about something else that you're not aware of right now. And after this video is done, you will be able to understand it in your life much, much better. But first, we have to talk about this. Feelings. We all think that feelings are something that we understand. If I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm sad, I'm sad. I know what those are. But what if I told you that you wouldn't know what those are, except that somebody has taught you? And you think about this when we look at babies, right? I've got an 8-month old, just turned 8 months old. My God, he's adorable. Look at pictures on Instagram, but that's for later. When you're working with an infant, notice how the parents interact with that child almost intuitively, almost subconsciously. They say, "Oh, look how happy you are. I love your smile. Oh, we're so excited." And they're mirroring. When the baby smiles, they smile back. And it's this intuitive response that we as human beings have developed over the years of evolution that we've experienced, where we've gotten to this understanding of when that baby smiles, I smile back so they can see what it looks like. So they can see how that's being perceived by me and mirror it back to them so they can understand what happy looks like. These are all things that are taught, but we don't teach them in school because they happen at such early formative years that we teach them in unconscious ways. And a good parent, or really any parent, is kind of born with that ability and that understanding of, oh, this is how I kind of interact with babies. And you see anybody who interacts with a baby, they change their voice, they change their expression, they change their eye contact, all for the purpose of helping that child understand what they're feeling and what's going on in the world. Sadness, anger, excitement, fear, all are conditioned and understood emotions because they're taught as children. And so think about this childhood trauma. I mean, with this context in mind, my God, childhood trauma has such a greater reach and context and such a farther reaching implication in a person's life than maybe you even realized. And so even if you had some difficulties in your life growing up, think about how emotions were shown to you and how they were dealt because you learned even before you could speak what you were feeling and what that meant to you. And if that wasn't in place in a healthy way, you're going to develop some things about yourself that are going to be a real train wreck, a real nightmare to try and deal with. Like imagine you're trying to drive a car, but you don't know what each of the gears are. So you throw it into fourth in the first rip. And then as you're going down the highway trying to go a little faster, you put it in reverse. You're going to have some smoke and flames, my friend. You understand? And so it doesn't mean that you're doomed, but it may mean that you need to go back and relearn some things. And that's what we're going to talk about with anxiety today, right? Now, what a lot of people don't understand, the biggest one that I see with anxiety is there are two emotions. Well, there's one emotion that looks a lot like anxiety, right? We usually think about anxiety as fear, but there's another emotion that looks almost identical. And it is up to you now, but also up to your parents when you're a kid to teach you the difference between anxiety and excitement. Excitement and anxiety, if you think about them, have the almost identical response physiologically inside your body. Your heart rate, God damn, that was a mess. Your heart rate speeds up. Your breathing becomes more shallow. You feel those butterflies in your stomach. You feel a heightened sense of awareness. Your eyes and pupils dilate and you feel your shoulders come up. You feel tingling in the ends of your fingertips and maybe your extremities and your toes because there's more oxygen, more blood flow. That adrenaline dumps. Ooh, we are wired. Now, what we don't know is if we're wired because we're scared and we need to run away, or if we're wired because this is going to be an amazing time. And I use this example often. Sex is a great way to understand that kind of difference. As adults, we can interact with sex now. And so you feel that same physiological response in anticipation for a sexual connection with your partner. It's going to be amazing and wonderful, right? Or at least hopefully it is. But we wouldn't really consider that anxiety unless somebody has some other things going on, some trauma in their life, right? We can kind of accurately define that one. But what if you're about to go to a big event, right? Or what if you're about to go meet a friend you haven't seen in some time? Well, you start to feel those same physiological responses. Is that excitement because I'm going to go see that friend, or I'm going to go have that big meeting that I've always hoped for, my shot at, talking to this big head honcho person that could give me the opportunities I'm looking for? Or is that anxiety? Well, see, in that scenario, it's a little bit harder to tell. And the emotional responses are similar as well. Inside of our brain, that adrenaline dumps, our amygdala fires up. We get the central nervous system that's lighting up and activated too, because we want to experience, and our senses are heightened as well, because we may need heightened senses in order to survive and get away. We also may want heightened senses so we can feel the pleasure that's about to happen as well. Like, think about to get on a roller coaster. Is that fear or is that excitement? Well, it's hard to tell. A lot of people go, I mean, it's spooky season right now, right? We are in the Halloween season. A lot of people go to haunted houses. Is that fear or is that excitement? There's no real danger, you're going to be okay. It's an amusement park, but we're playing on this border between anxiety and excitement. And that's exciting. That's fun because we know overarchingly we're safe, but we get to excite that response, that primal response inside of us that we don't really get the opportunity to excite when we're sitting inside of our cubicle or punching in data on spreadsheets at our boring 9 to 5 job. You see what I'm saying? Now, how do you deal with this then? Right? So these emotions are very similar, maybe even overlap, but what do we do with that? Well, you have to teach yourself. In those moments when you start to feel those physiological responses happening, have a moment. Because of this video now, you will pop into your head an awareness of, oh, wait a minute, Jesse talked about this. Is this excitement or is this anxiety? More likely than not, it may be a little bit of both, right? When you're thinking about going to meet with some friends, going out for a great time, there may be some social anxiety that pops up, but is that social anxiety or is that excitement because you felt lonely and here's an opportunity for you to make some great connections? Here's the difference. You want to focus on the outcome that you desire. I think one of the key differences between anxiety and excitement is thinking about the outcome. When you think about getting on a roller coaster or you think about going to a haunted house, you think about the enjoyment you're going to have. When you think about anxiety, you're thinking about all the things that could go wrong. And so here's one very small instance. I'm a pretty big combatant, right? Pretty aggressive about how much I dislike toxic positivity and all this mindset culture stuff. I mean, mindset is great, but at the same time, sometimes there's some problems we really need to talk through, and mindset is not doing it justice. But in this scenario, mindset, once we've taken care of ourselves, can be really, really powerful to unlock the difference between those two. You think about going on a roller coaster, you're thinking about that excitement, how wonderful it's going to be. You're thinking about social anxiety. You're thinking about how you're going to mess up all your words and people are going to think you're an idiot, right? What if instead you started thinking about, man, I'm so excited to spend time with these people, excited to make a new friend. What if I find my new best friend at this event, right? Or at this get together? Well, now that's the difference between anxiety and excitement. That's a wonderful thing to have inside of your brain. And that takes training. Hopefully training that you get when you're a child, but if you don't, that's okay. Many of us do not. It's training that you can start to experience as an adult and start to practice, right? Now, we have to be able to have, in order to do that, kindness to ourselves. The biggest thing, my motto, your mind is not against you. It's just misunderstood. And that is founded in kindness to ourselves. If you're feeling something, be kind to that. Ask yourself that question. Everything in me is geared and aligned for the survival of this creature. If I'm feeling something, there is something I need to pay attention to and be aware of because my body is bringing it to my attention and I'm grateful for that. So with that kindness and gratitude, we ask ourselves, what is it I need to learn from this moment? What am I missing here? And how can I grow? How can I be better? Approaching it that way instead of hating ourselves, the ways that our body and minds respond makes an incredible difference between the two, right? And now finally, maybe you're telling me, Jesse, listen, I've tried this mindset, anxiety. It is anxiety. Even the excitement stuff. Like, I know there may be some excitement, but I can't get rid of the anxiety. Here's my advice to you. Do it scared. Think about it. When you're talking to a child, kids are scared of everything. We know this, but somehow we forget this as adults. When you're learning things, you do it scared. The first time you rode a bike, the first time you baked cookies in the oven, the first time you went swimming in a pool, the first time you went outside with your friends, the first time you ran free spirited down a hill, knowing all well that you could fall and scrape your knee. The first time that you tripped and hurt yourself, realizing how the world is dangerous and a scary place. You do these things as a child with fear, but with reckless abandon as well. And somehow we think that as adults, we're not supposed to feel fear anymore. If you are doing new things and growing as a person, you should feel fear on a consistent basis. That's a normal part of being alive and being a human. It's your mind saying, "Hey, I know that you're excited. That's really, really great. Just be careful of this thing, okay? This could go wrong. I don't want it to get too bad, not a hand." That's a wonderful thing to have built inside of your mind. Appreciate that. Do it scared anyways. The more that you become comfortable with something, the more that fears go away. And if you are the type of person who can ride a bicycle, you know that typically you don't fear riding a bike anymore. You don't fear walking anymore, but at one point walking was an incredibly dangerous activity that your parents helped you through. And maybe in this scenario, maybe in this situation, I'm just that kind parental voice saying, "Hey, I know you're scared. You're going to do a really great job. I'm really proud of you. It's okay to be scared. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. If anything, I'm proud of you being courageous and pushing through. And I'm proud that you have such an incredible brain that you're aware of the things that could go wrong, but you also know the excitement that could be had by pressing into a situation that is new and exciting for you. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.